Welcome to Andrea Lake 101, the making of a billionaire, you guys. This week it is Sticker Wars. Oh my God. Yes, please, let's go. Yes, please, let's go. So today we are just going to have a fun episode. I am going to talk about marketing and I'm going to have no holds barred fucking talking about my own badassery today, you guys. I'm 52, probably one of the first times in my life that I have publicly stated I'm just a fucking complete badass. And I'm going to own it because I want to encourage other women who have been discouraged their whole entire lives from saying that, women my age. So when I came back in this company, we were at $438,000 in annual revenue. Today, we are at $3.1 million in annual revenue. That is already up from 1.8 million last year. I truly believe that we're going to land $22 million in hard revenue this year. That's cuckoo pants crazy. How are we going to do it? Well, you're just going to have to stay tuned to find out. And so from this point forward, this is just going to be a masterclass in scaling, or I'm going to fall flat on my fucking face and you're going to make fun of me later for having called myself a badass. No fucking worries, because falling flat on my face at this point looks like we still have $3 to $10 million in revenue, which is not bad. That is not a bad second place. When I was a little kid, I read that book, Awaken the Giant Within, and Tony Robbins kept saying, like, set a goal. I think he got it from Zig Ziglar. I don't know where it originally comes from, but set a goal that is so big for yourself that even if you miss it, you are still very, very happy with what you have accomplished. And so this year, our goal is 10 million in revenue. However, I do have a stretch goal of 22 million in annual revenue. I have a way already that we can get there that incorporates some new things that aren't on the site yet. So I'm not going to really dive into what those are because my competitors, very quite wisely, they watch this show. Yeah, you can imagine, or they listen to the podcast. And so I'm always tempered with the things that I share. But today I am going to share something because I have a smile on my face that will not go away. Now, that is not just because it's 4:20 today of 2026, because it is 7 o'clock in the morning and I could not smoke weed. I have to travel today. I'm driving a very, very long way. And then I'm flying out of the country. We'll be at a super awesome conference that I will talk about later in the episode. But for right now, we're going to talk about how the fuck did we get here? Yeah, really good question. How, especially for those of you that are new, how did I 7X so far the revenue in the company really in the last year and a half? Because I've been back in the company for 2.5 years, but the first year, actually probably more like year and 3 or 4 months, was just getting all the ducks in a row, getting everything in line, getting the compliance issues handled, getting new equipment, machinery, getting the staff trained, and then building a culture, building a true team, because I always knew that that's what I needed. Now I've thoroughly canvassed that in other podcasts. So today we are going to talk about marketing and sales and doing something that I don't know how often that this has ever been demonstrated in real time, and certainly not to the degree of a company that I intend to build, which truly is the top leader in this space. I truly intend to build a $1 billion company, which is why this is called The Making of a Billionaire. For anybody that is new, it matters who we spend our money with, right? We're seeing that now more than ever. In every industry, it doesn't matter if it is coffee or coffee cups or laundry detergent or clothing or washers and dryers or lamps or soap. It doesn't really matter. They're all $1 billion industries. So whoever you and me and us spends most of our money with is going to be a $1 billion company. And right now, there are basically 3 other big competitors that I look at that have jumped through all the hoops, right? So if you just look online, you're going to see sticker this, sticker that, sticker next word, fill in the blank, all of these different sticker companies that are competing basically for the same clients. They're basically competing for the people on Instagram who are purchasing one-off sticker orders. That's why what you're seeing is very competitive, very low pricing. And that's awesome. And we do get some of those clients as well, but we don't compete on price. Why do we not compete on price? It's because we're a tech company based out of San Diego who is striving to pay a living wage. So that plus 10 stickers for $9 does not go together. Those two things don't go together. That is a loss leader to get clients to come in the door. However, that made way more sense, I would say, when it started back in, the early 2010s and sticker companies started doing that, because then it was getting a leader in to people who would then buy 500 stickers later, 200 stickers later. And while certainly that happens with some of the clients who are testing you out with that, 10 stickers for $9, it would cost us a minimum of $42 to print 10 stickers. It basically costs us pretty much the same amount to print 10 stickers as it does to print 50 stickers. So I knew for sure that those weren't the clients that I was going for. I was going for the clients that only a few sticker companies actually can even appropriately go get, because they're clients who are going to need tech integrations, they're going to need a concierge level of customer service, and they're going to be the clients that are ordering anywhere above $1,500 a year in stickers. And then you're just going to segment that out too, right? If one of your clients is spending $10,000 a year on stickers, then there's going to be a little higher level of tech integration, etc. If they're spending 100,000, it's way higher. And if they're spending $1 million or more, it's obviously way higher. So what I knew from the beginning, walking day one into this company, was I wanted to go get a bunch of clients that were spending over $1,500 in stickers, right? 2 or 3 or 400 or 1,000 clients that are spending between $1,500 and $5,000, a couple hundred clients that are spending above $100,000, and a few clients that are spending above $1 million in stickers. And there's plenty of places that do that, except for most of them are going to require tons and tons of regulatory compliance. You're going to have to jump through every single hoop. You're going to have all of your vendor numbers in place. If you're dealing with government contracts, you're going to have tons of certifications in place, tons of environmental impact stuff in place, and just all of your little duckies that you need to get into a row with having proper employee training, employee handbooks, workplace violence seminars, etc. There's so much regulatory compliance that the bigger of a company that you have, the more you're going to need to be in line with it. And the thing is, in a scaling company, especially a scaling company that can go viral, if we go viral really suddenly and have to go from 16 to 50 employees, we wouldn't have time in that viral growth to put those things in place. So we made a very conscious decision to do that first. That is mostly what I was doing for the first almost 2 years in that company. And it is certainly almost exclusively what Brian, our chief operations officer, was doing for the first year plus that he was in the company. And now we have an anniversary date of the compliance being done. But the other thing that I was doing that whole time was building up a story. That is the way that you market with zero ad dollars. Yeah. That's crazy. It's crazy for me to sit here and say, I am going to get to be a company that does $250 to $400 million in revenue with no marketing ad spend. What? I'm sorry, what the fuck? What? Don't you need to buy all those Google ads? But sometimes when I type in sticker junkie, something else comes up. Yeah, because my competitors bid on our keyword because we don't spend money there. And they are bidding so much on that keyword that we would be hemorrhaging cash if we tried to compete with them for people who are already looking for us anyway. Do we lose money from people that click into one of our competitors and buy them? I am certain that we do. My whole thing this whole time is something I haven't talked about in a while, which is to create Fanatic fans. That's what it's called. In the same way that I'm a Fanatic fan of the Morbid podcast. If you listen to this podcast, then you're going to know that I fucking love Ash and Elena, and I'm a huge fan of Morbid. I'm a huge fan of Yeti. I have so many different Yeti thermoses, Yeti coolers, etc. I really, really love their products. I'm a Fanatic fan of Sakara, the food delivery service. I am a Fanatic fan of the Mevin Cafe in San Diego. It's a Turkish cafe. It's fucking delicious. They have the best coffee. They have such delicious, impeccably good food. And so when I like things, I really, really, really like them. I'm a Fanatic fan of the La Jolla Farmers Market, the Hillcrest Farmers Market, the Ocean Beach Farmers Market. There are just things that I love to go do and that I love to just get into. I'm a Fanatic fan of my last chick, Tracy, at Routine Beauty in San Diego. So what I was looking for are people who are Fanatic fans of Sticker Junkie. And what makes me a Fanatic fan of all of those places, especially let's talk about Routine Beauty and Mevin Cafe. What makes me a Fanatic fan is the way that I feel when I walk in there. And Sakara too. I feel taken care of. I feel special. I feel like I am important to them. Sakara has a concierge program. And as soon as I spent a certain threshold of dollars, they texted me and said, hey, you're one of our concierge clients. If you ever need anything, here's a special text line just for you to get through to us. And at Sticker Junkie, we do stuff like that for actually really all of our clients. Any of our clients can reach out to us anytime on the phone, on email, etc. If anybody has a problem, we fix it. And so I knew that I wanted to create this, but like, how do you create that when you have nothing and not even 2 nickels to rub together? The answer is number 1, extraordinary customer service. Number 2 is to tell a story on social media and to show people who you are. Now, we haven't been posting like super much stories on social media. You can see us posting a reel that goes viral and then retracting and pulling back, and then posting a reel that goes viral and then retracting and pulling back and doing like customer reviews, customer pictures, sort of really more standardized stuff, and then doing another reel that explains more about who we are, what we're doing, what our mission is, paying a living wage, etc. And the reason that it's been sort of on and off a little bit is because that's the way in which we're controlling the flow of orders that we receive. If we were to go hyper viral right now, it would be quite hard for us to catch up. And so in advance, in that 2 years in advance, we also figured out ways to put the brakes on if our orders get too high, too quick. And like nobody talks about that, but I've said a million times, that is why people on Shark Tank fail. That is the same exact reason that like lottery winners, if they win a lottery, they're almost for sure going to be in the same financial situation that they were in previous to winning the lottery within the next 7 years. And it's quite similar, but faster in business. If you get an influx of orders and you can't make those customers happy, most of those customers are never coming back. So you only want to onboard as many clients as you can handle. Well, how the fuck do you do that while simultaneously not paying for marketing? You tell a good story. And so luckily, I am not only a slogan writer, but I'm a huge reader who's read thousands and thousands of books. For anyone that follows the show, you know that I never owned a television. And so I'm pretty good at linguistics. I'm good at crafting a story. I'm a really good slogan writer, which means I speak in bumper sticker. So if I'm conveying an idea on someplace like Threads, which we're going to talk about today, it's probably going to be pretty highly readable. The syntax is going to be right. It's going to have a cadence and a flow to it that people are paying attention to. My intention when I moved back into the company was to tell the story of us building this company, paying a living wage, especially right now. Whoo, you guys, we already were doing the right thing before like a living wage became a hot topic of conversation. Okay. And in the upcoming 2026 and 2028 elections, we're going to hear a lot of bull ass shit. We're going to hear a lot about affordability. That's a fucking bullshit word. Okay. When people talk about that, what they're talking about in general, these are people who say that who are not sophisticated at economics. Generally speaking, this is going to be a politician. This is a politician's word. And they're going to say, we're going to make things affordable for you. Well, that's insane. What they need to be talking about, because what needs to be done is quadrupling the pay from what was being paid in a position 20 years ago. Okay, because everything has gotten 4 times more expensive and the average salaries have only gone up 60% and they should have gone up 400%. And because most people don't think in numbers, let me tell you what that means. It means if you were making $20 an hour 20 years ago, you would be making $32 an hour right now. Well, fucking spoiler alert, to have the same amount of spending power as you had 20 years ago with $20 an hour, yeah, you need to be making $80 an hour right now. There's 2,080 work hours in a work year, but let's just call it 2,000 to make it easy. If you're making $20 an hour, that's about $40,000 a year. It's really more like 41.6 a year. If you are making $80 an hour, it's about $160,000 a year. And so the chasm is humongous. So people who are thriving 20 years ago while making $20 an hour are struggling now while making $32 an hour in a city, especially. It's not great anywhere. That's why we made the website stickerjunkie.com/living wage. So you could see how much does it actually cost to live for where you are in the country. And we did it in 3 different categories, right? Scraping by, comfy, and ballin', so that you can just like have targets for yourself of how much money you actually need to make. Very deliberately in the United States, most people don't even understand how much they actually need to make to be super comfortable, because in mass, we're not taught about budgeting. We're not taught about how much we should be making, that feels really intentional. It sure does. So before this became a hot topic of conversation, and now everybody is talking about this affordability, let me get back to that. What they're saying is we need to reduce prices on things like oil, eggs, etc. Just a few tiny, teeny, tiny little bitty indicators, right? That doesn't address reducing the cost of rent, which is going to be your biggest cost, or mortgages, or the ability to buy a house. It doesn't actually fix anything. It is, in fact, part of the reason that we're in this problem in the first place. What needs to happen is that all corporations, all companies must have to raise their people up to baseline a living wage. And then if they don't suck, they need to have their lowest paid person at 20% above a living wage, instead of just only having their C team at like 471 times more than their lowest paid employee. That actually doesn't work. That actually will fall of its own economic weight. And you're seeing that with this string of warehouse fires of people just being like, we can't live. And I don't condone that. Obviously, there's nothing condonable about setting a warehouse on fire. You also just put a whole bunch of people out of their jobs, right? Because those jobs have disappeared now that that warehouse is gone. However, it's very understandable. You can only starve people for so long. And so why aren't politicians who are running for office talking about that? Yeah, good question. They won't get elected. They will get attacked because it would mostly be Democrats who would be talking about increasing wages. Republicans have very consistently voted against that for the last 40 years. If anybody wants to argue with me, just go look at the voting history, because that just is the voting history. It doesn't matter what the media that they own is consistently lying and saying. That doesn't matter. What actually is happening is that they're consistently voting against increases in the minimum wage en masse on the Republican Party. Now, those of you who watch the podcast know that I am not a Democrat or a Republican, because both of them have put us in this position, period. But this is not a political podcast, so I'm going to get back to how the fuck do you grow a business within all of this? Well, the story that I thought that I was going to tell was basically that story of like, look, we all need to be making a living wage. But what happens is, as soon as a politician says that, the opposition party, which in this particular case would be the Republican Party, is going to say, you're going to put small businesses out of business and this and that. And they're going to tell people that over and over and over and over and over again. They're going to frighten and terrify small business owners and medium-sized business owners, when in fact, you could actually implement an increase in a living wage to only companies that had over 1,000 employees. That would be super, super easy. What would they do? They would raise prices. That's right. But because they're the dominant majority of all jobs in the United States, if all of those basically at the same time went up to a living wage, and then you have a proper amount of wealth distribution. So when like everyone that works for Amazon, Walmart, any large corporation, any corporation with over 1,000 employees, when everyone is being properly paid, then guess what? They can easily afford a slight increase at those places. And it wouldn't even have to be a high increase. It would be like 7, 8, 10% increase, which I understand is high, except for just overnight, we all started paying 30% more for everything because the tariffs immediately imposed a 30% tax on the American people. And that just as easily could have been 7% and forcing every single corporation that has over 1,000 employees to pay a living wage. That hasn't happened because of the way that media and politics is set up. That being said, the reason that I'm telling you this is because that was going to be the story. That was going to be the story that I was going to be telling through growth, of just like following the journey of all of our employees, of like, what does it look like when you're making well above a living wage? It looks like you can buy a house, you can travel the world, you can have children, you can take care of aging parents, you can support your community, you can decide to buy a piece of land and build a greenhouse on it if that's your thing. Whatever your thing is, you're going to be able to afford to do it. If you've always wanted to live on a high floor in a beautiful apartment building, then you can do that. So whatever it is that people want to do, if they're making like 20, 30% minimum above a living wage for where they live, they're going to have options. They're going to be able to do whatever the fuck they want. If they have a dream car, they're going to be able to save up and buy it. If they want to pay for their kids' college outright, they're going to be able to do that. We used to live in an America where that was the case, because in the late 70s and early 80s, before things started switching away to put all of the money into the pockets of very, 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 very few people. The consolidation of wealth over the last 40 years is cuckoo pants crazy, and it is out of the pockets of the average American. That's who's suffering. That's who's paying for all of this. And they all know it. I was texting the other day with a paramedic who's like, I make less than $32 an hour. I can't believe that you're going to pay $32 an hour to have people ship boxes in a warehouse. And I'm like, we don't actually have people that just ship boxes. We have people that know how to run all production. But it's a really good example because most places do have people that all they do is ship boxes all day, and they are being paid truly way under, I would call it a poverty wage, way under a living wage to ship boxes. It's nuts. And then we've been indoctrinated like frogs in a boiling pot of water to believe that that's okay. And it's not. It's not okay for anyone on the team of a business that is profitable to be getting paid under a living wage. That was going to be the story because a whole lot of people would want to purchase from a company like that. And then into my pretty little lap fell Stickergate, where my biggest competitor went super hyper political with his love for Donald Trump. I think that everyone here at this point knows this, but Anthony Constantino from Sticker Mule, who actually is running for Congress, is ultra MAGA. He calls himself super MAGA. He is so into it. He takes pictures constantly and posts pictures constantly of himself in front of his Vote for Trump sign. He just gave a speech last week where the podium he was standing in front of didn't say vote for Constantino. It said vote for Trump. And I'm like, Trump's already in office and he's not up to be elected for anything. I don't know why that still is your sign. This is choices are being made. Wild, wild. And so he's running for Congress in New York 21 in a very, very red district, trying to take over Elisa Stefanik's seat. And from what I am hearing, he's going to beat his Republican primary competitor, Robert Smolin. And who knows if that is true or not. Certainly the local GOP is not very happy with him. However, he has support in the GOP at a national level. So who the fuck knows? But I am watching with bated breath. And that is a story worth tuning into, especially considering I not only have been in the Global Economic Institute for decades and have been studying geopolitics and global economics for decades. Not only that, I was a contestant on The Apprentice, and I know Donald Trump personally. And spoiler alert, yeah, did not vote for that guy. No secret there, anytime ever. And that really says something to me of someone that I personally actually know myself, that I didn't vote for that person. Like, it'd be pretty cool to know the president in most circumstances, however, not particularly in this one. And so we're seeing this hemorrhaging of cash out of the United States budget and the United States economy. If you want to dive into that, check out Heather Cox Richardson's podcast. She's a historian. I recommend her podcast all the time. Fanatic fan of her podcast. So what I was trying to do from the start is to create 1,000 Fanatic fans who would just love Sticker Junkie. And quite frankly, I think we've hit the 1,000. We have 23,000.4 followers right now on Threads. We have 39,000.9 followers on Instagram. I don't ever go into TikTok. I think we're like 5,000 followers over there or something. And like the message is getting out. If someone says something in Threads and I'm not online, people are tagging me the whole time because I personally go in there a lot. And I've been like seeding this story of dropping breadcrumbs. And it's a multiple layered story. It's the story of Stickergate. It's a story of Sticker Junkie paying a living wage. And then on my personal pages and dripping sometimes into Sticker Junkie, it's my story. So I went a little bit viral on Threads yesterday myself. And as I've been telling this story on Threads for the last 6 months, since December 27th of 2025, I have been dropping little breadcrumbs into the comments section of other people's comments to me or on other posts, and just sort of making a little treasure hunt, little Easter egg hunt, little scavenger hunt where people can find little gems of what's going to happen way later in the process. Virtually all of our upcoming products have been announced in a deep Easter egg hunt. And there's this deep lore that's going on because what I realized that I needed to do was get people interested in my industry. Why do they care about a living wage from some little sticker company? Well, because it's a $42 billion industry already. That's more interesting. Already right there, that's more interesting. Yes, please, let's go. Already nobody realized that until I kept saying over and over and over again, open your refrigerator, look at your condiments. There's 2 to 3 stickers on each one. The refrigerator itself probably has 2 to 4 internal stickers within the freezer and the refrigerator. In addition to that, there's probably 2 or 3 stickers on the back of the refrigerator with safety warnings, electrical warnings, etc. There might be even one on the bottom. If you open your car door, same thing. There's stickers on the interior of your car door. There's stickers everywhere. If you start to look for them, you will be astonished at how many stickers you see everywhere, on top of just like the decorative stickers that everybody thinks of on the water bottles, on the back of their cars, etc. $42 billion space. So all of a sudden that's interesting. So the ones that I talk about on this podcast are myself, Sticker Giant, and Sticker App, both of which are owned by multi-billion-dollar private equity funds, and Sticker Mule. Those are sort of the bigger players in the space. Those are companies that I believe are doing more than, let's call it $50 million in revenue. I don't know what any of their numbers are. Sticker Mule themselves on their hiring page says that they are a 9-figure annual company, which is at least $100 million in revenue. My guess is that it is significantly higher than that. However, I don't know what their numbers are. I do know that they claim to have 1,000 employees. And sometimes Anthony says he has 1,000 employees in the United States. And sometimes he says he has 1,000 employees and they're spread across 39 countries. I don't know how many employees that they actually have or where those employees are domiciled. I have no idea. So it's much harder for me to get an actual tight calculation on how much revenue that they're doing annually. But because in addition to everything else, I am actually a quant trader, that means that I am very, 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 very good at applied mathematics and quantitative mathematics. All that means applied mathematics is that you can give me a figure and I can apply that with logic to a company and come up with a pretty good guess at how much revenue they're doing. Or it's any way that you're actually applying mathematics into real life. And so when my competitors say anything in any interview or on any reel, they are telling me a very lot of information, generally speaking, without realizing it, because I own an identical company and I'm watching, just in the same way that I probably say things that when my competitors watch this show, they're like, oh, didn't know that. That's a really good idea. Never thought of this. Wow, that's a really good idea. Yeah. So I've been careful about what I say on here, sorta. And that's just basically going to go away within the next 2 to 4 months, because already I'm in a position where I have built a business by being myself. And that's what you're going to want to do. Entrepreneurs, that is what you're going to want to do. That is how you're going to scale a business. I'm a bougie chick that likes nice things. That means that if you get stickers from me, they're going to be really nice, because I'm not going to want something to go out of my door in one of my companies in my name that's not a really nice product. Period. If something can be done nicer, then we are building our way into doing it nicer. That's why we're not just like jumping into the label space, because you can get a label machine for like 20 grand. It is not very good. You're probably going to have not very happy customers. If you have a $20,000 label machine and they've been going to a supplier that has a $400,000 or $900,000 label printing machine, like they're probably going to be like, whoa, this is really different than what we're used to. And also, I intensely actually super duper duper care about my employees, about paying them fairly, about my customers. I understand where my bread gets buttered, and I'm not making it up when I'm like intensely communicating on threads with our clients about our appreciation for them. I fucking love our clients. They're the reason that we all have jobs. And we talk about that a lot at Sticker Junkie. We want all of our clients to have like this really, really, really great customer experience with us. And we're phasing into all the things that then matter. Like right now, we still ship through USPS and we don't even use custom envelopes. Why? Because we can't afford the additional expense of the custom polymer packaging right now. But soon we will, and we'll buy the machines that manufacture those. So as I'm taking people granularly into the journey as much as they want to know and sharing it as much as they want to know, that's what creates a Fanatic fan. Whatever business that you are running or building or growing, nobody else is you. And so nobody else can do it like you. And so I am quite frankly not very concerned about companies that are owned by private equity. I would be far more concerned by a company that would crop up that's similar to me. That is like, we will never sell to private equity. We have open book financials. We explain exactly to our employees where their next raises come in, where their next bonuses come in, and the vision that I'm holding for my employees. Yeah, they all know that because we play the podcast every week to everybody that works for us so that they understand if there's anything I haven't personally conveyed to them or Brian or Jenny hasn't personally conveyed to them, then it's conveyed through the podcast of like, this is where we're going. we're doing this in the sunlight. You can see whether or not we get the raises when we hit that number, sharing with you guys what our number is and what our growth is, and a part that you don't really see. We just barely are breaking even right now, and I am still over $2 million in debt. It's going to take us 18 months of doing really well, 12 months at least of doing really well for me to even be able to get out of that debt. And even while I'm in that debt, I have talked to all the people that I owe money to, and they have been having the patience of saints. You know who you are. Thank you. As we scale, because there are so many expenses to scaling, and we are just about at that tipping point where we can just run and sprint and fly and be making huge payments off of the debt, and actually within the next 18 months become a truly, truly debt-free, profitable company. That took 2.5 years of just every single day climbing and crawling and scratching and moving in the right direction day by day by day. That is not glamorous. Every time that I see like an entrepreneurial influencer and they're super oversimplifying it, I'm like, no, it's every single day for a year or 2 or 3 in a row of just taking steps forward. That literally is what creates a profitable, stable company. And it's not exciting for a lot of the journey. A lot of it is just doing the thing. So when I came back into the company and I said this, like, I'm going to work all day for every day for 27 months, which I did do. I actually worked all day every day for 28 and a half months until I knew the company was actually stable. And now I take a couple hours off every day, but I still work most of the time and definitely every single day because I like it and I'm building a company. But I sort of was doing the same thing with my social media where I have been just seeding things in because I know that at some point, as we start to catch traction and as we start to truly hit exponential numbers, people are going to want to see like, how the fuck did you do that? And how the fuck could I maybe do that? The one thing that I'm finding that actually is the most impactful, even though there's all this tea, right? So Courtney on our staff, who is our proofs manager, designed this sticker. David designed the super cute Cupid stickers that are on the thermos that I'm holding if you're watching on audio only. And Courtney designed this one. Came for the drama, stayed for the stickers. So a lot of people really did come to us through Stickergate. They're like, whoa, I don't want to support that. But they didn't just come to us. They tried a bunch of different sticker companies and then landed with us, the ones that are our clients, and a bunch of other people got a bunch of other clients, all as well. And the ones that stayed with us were like, whoa, your customer service is amazing. I actually feel super cared for as a client. I actually feel like you really appreciate my business. I'm like, girl, you have no idea. And sir, either way, we really do. We really, 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 really do. You are the reason that we can pay our bills. You are the reason that we're getting out of debt. And so when you're on social media and engaging with your audience, you can't fake that. You can't just say you feel that way if you don't feel that way. You can't just say like, oh, I treat my employees really well, and then not treat your employees really well. Like, period. But if you show up as your authentic self and you're really doing your best, why would anyone want to spend their money on a virtually identical product? I mean, ours are the actual very highest quality that you can get, but on a virtually identical product somewhere else. There was a debate this week over Threads where it tried to like overtake the Stickergate hashtag that we created several years ago. That was like, what's better? Manufactured stickers from a professional supplier or something that someone makes on their Cricut. It was just a silly, ridiculous debate. And because it's awesome for someone to have a Cricut. A Cricut is a small, like $1,000 cutting machine or $600 cutting machine. I don't know how much it costs. So you can print something out on a printer in your house and put it into a Cricut and cut it. And I'm like, that's great. That's super cool. If you have those, that's going to be really great for your Etsy shop. And that's a fucking awesome banger option for somebody that's at home that has like 200 artwork designs and just wants to print their designs to order, and they don't want the lead time of reordering. They don't want to put a bunch of cash up front into purchasing stickers from someone like us. A $600 machine that you buy on the internet is not going to cut the same way that an $80,000 machine that we have cuts, or a $140,000 Kongsberg or Zund or big, huge cutter. Like, it's just not, obviously. Like, I love coffee with my whole heart. But when I go to a cafe like Mevin, which has a La Morocco, like the best possible industrial version of a coffee machine with roasted beans that were roasted that morning, it's going to be a better cup of coffee than what I make on my Bialetti on my stove in the morning. However, I still drink a Bialetti coffee almost every morning and it still is delicious. So the whole debate was just like, why is this even a thing? Why are we even talking about this? But luckily, what it did was bring stickers back to the forefront of the conversation in threads. So I was like, okay, well, I just need to use this to my advantage. Period. So everything that comes up, I'm just tying more of the story and tying more of the story and tying more of the story in. And the one that went viral for me this weekend was a thread that someone else posted. If you're not familiar with threads, because it is a smaller platform, it's basically sort of like what Twitter was in the beginning, except for left leaning, is basically threads. It's owned by Meta and a whole bunch of people are over there. Someone posted, this content creator, Kate Bullock writes, posted, "What's the coolest thing about you? Don't be fucking humble or gaslight yourself into thinking you're not cool. Tell me right fucking now what makes you a badass." And I was like, yes. Like the lead singer from Spin Doctors, who I follow on there, posted something and that's how I saw it. So I went in there with my 23,000 followers and said, and I did a hashtag on it because you are allowed to like label it so that if people search Stickergate, it'll come up. Saved my company from bankruptcy and will be paying my 16-person staff a living wage, $32 an hour in San Diego by the end of 2026. I also was a professional fire dancer with Jane's Addiction. Yeah, sure was. And so I've told that story in other episodes. And unfortunately, I couldn't like go be a full touring person because that I think it was through Jim Rose's Sideshow Circus back then. So I just lucked my way into being able to throw with them because I wasn't officially on contract with him. But then I got tons and tons and tons of comments, of replies, etc. And someone said very astutely, which is true, like, oh, $32 an hour, like just isn't that much. In San Diego County, though, that's still tight. And instead of being like, yo, fuck off, nobody pays that much, I was like, no, you're totally right. $32 an hour is our end of 2026 goal. My goal for end of 2027 is anybody that's been with us for longer than a year makes $41 an hour, which is $85,000 a year. And it goes up from there because that's going to be a actual comfortable wage. That's what I want people to make. Spoiler alert, if you're making $85,000 in San Diego County, you're probably still going to have a roommate. You're probably going to still want one because you can get so much nicer of a place. But that begins to be like, oh, I can actually afford to save up to do whatever I want at that point. And that is before bonuses. And that is my goal. Will we hit that goal? I don't know. I do know for sure that everything that I've been doing is part of the marketing. Leaving this podcast every week, especially when I sometimes don't have time for it and sometimes have been going through true actual depression during this journey. As you can imagine, the quantity of stress that I've been under living above $2 million in debt for multiple years, you guys, it's really high. Yeah. And so this week on Threads, with all of this engagement that we've been doing over the last 5 months, big things started to happen. PBS responded to one of our posts. Lyft responded to one of our posts. Impossible started following us. Huge movie stars started following us and TV stars. One of them, Kristen Johnston, started following us, who's a fucking badass comedian and whose stuff that I actually personally love. And so the traction and the momentum is building. Just this morning, I saw another comedian that has 600,000 followers started following us on Instagram. And we have so many accounts that have like 500,000 followers, 1 million followers following our story now. What the algorithm sees that as is they see you as an influencer of influencers. Once you have way larger accounts following your much smaller account, and it pushes it out more. And one of the posts that I did, which sort of dropped into the deep threads lore, which everyone likes a little side quest, everyone likes a little alleyway. And there are people who just are diving deep into the comments right now because I let them know that there's a scavenger hunt in there. And it's just been a fun experience of unfolding. And when I first started this, like telling the story of the sticker industry, I didn't actually realize how fascinating it would be because it is really fascinating. It's fascinating to see companies that people loved getting sold to private equity and being like, oh, that could work out really great for me. A whole lot of people don't want to support private equity. A whole lot of people don't want to accidentally be lining the pockets of billionaires. We're seeing that right, left, and center right now. But to get all of these cherries on top, when you have an industry where $42 billion billion worth of revenue is being created, there's going to be tea. And spoiler alert, the reason that there's not more sticker companies online that are competing in this big space for these huge contracts, right? For universities or anybody that's going to order a whole lot of stickers is because most of them don't have a big internet presence. Like most of the companies that are doing huge quantities of the political campaign stickers, there's a whole bunch of sticker and paper companies that are in the Midwest, that are sort of in the center part of the country where land is cheaper, payroll is going to be less expensive, just all of the things. There's a lot of those types of companies that have had those contracts locked up for decades. So when somebody new comes on the block and is like, oh, hey, and most of those now have also been sold to private equity. Not all of them, though. Not all of them, though. There's plenty of those that are privately held. But when you have somebody else coming in and saying, hey, I'm bright and shiny and I have a story and I also have super fucking cool tech integrations. Yeah. Do you want to see what they are? Take a quick call with me. Would love to show them to you. It's become this whole thing. And then also to have a podcast where I really transparently share exactly what I'm doing. It's coming to a part where it's not duplicatable because nobody else is me. So somebody can try and start talking about how much they appreciate their team, but you have to have a team that actually really knows that you appreciate them and they appreciate you back. That's sort of part of being a team. So if you are an entrepreneur and you want to know, like, well, how do you do this? How do you actually create a story? It is the story that sells the business. If you think about the way that human beings are, generally speaking, we used to exist at a maximum of a tribe of 150 people, and most of the knowledge that was passed down through stories. That is how people learn and retain information. It's why people who are like very quite good communicators tell everything in story format because they know that that's what's going to land. So generally speaking, if you're watching like a TED Talk, they're going to have a story that touches your heart, and it can't just be like a story. It has to actually elicit emotion from a person. That's the hardest part to teach someone who's like new to social media or is on social media. It's way too much of people trying to do something that just get likes, gets clicks, gets views. Most of the things that get most of the views, most of the likes, etc., I have no fucking idea what brand they came from. None at all. Zero whatsoever. Because it was just on some trend, some 15-second thing, some 30-second thing. Like, it's great to do those. We obviously do those at Sticker Junkie on our social media, but that is not what's converting people into purchasing. And even if you tell the story of like, oh, we're paying a living wage, it has to be done where people feel it, where they feel that you really care. So if you would like to go see what I'm talking about, go check out our reels on Instagram, and especially go check out our Sticker Junkie threads and like really dive in to how we're doing it, because it's just inherently interesting content. And it's all told with a like, oh, look around this corner. Oh, look over here. And a very traditional, what's called a drip campaign, where you're just like dripping little cool, interesting things. And you have to be dripping those little cool, interesting things for a while before people start caring. So if you wanted to read one really good book on building a company, it would be Guerrilla Marketing by J. Conrad Levinson. Get the most updated version. And even though this is an older book, it is still completely stellar of how to actually run guerrilla marketing campaigns for very, very little amount of dollars, where you can just like be doing stuff. One of the most famous examples he uses in there is Jack Canfield, who is an author was really popular in the 80s. He wrote a series of books called Chicken Soup for the Soul. And he gave a copy of Chicken Soup for the Soul to every person on the O.J. Simpson jury, knowing and understanding that they were sequestered. And so they didn't have anything to do. Nobody had phones. If they had phones, they would have been sequestered and taken away from them. And so there was this very famous shot, this very famous picture of every single one of the 12 jurors of this incredibly famous trial, like the first sort of really captivated the whole nation television trial that was played out in real time. I guess the first one was the Iran-Contra affair, but the first like salacious one was the O.J. Simpson trial. And seeing all of those jurors, that sold millions of copies of books. Well, how much did that cost him? That cost him the price of 12 books. But guess what? That is not the only person that he sent those books to. He had sent out thousands of copies of his books, and most of it didn't go anywhere. But that one particular shot sold millions of dollars worth of books. I still remember seeing that picture when I was a kid. That is guerrilla marketing. And that's the kind of stuff that we do on threads, especially, where I came up with this thing called the Sticker Fairy Godmother. It also helps that I am the only large sticker company that's owned by a woman. So I just get to be me, and I'm the sticker fairy godmother. And every now and again, I come across somebody and I gift them a big gift certificate, a $250 gift certificate or a $150 gift certificate, depending, so that they can just go buy whatever they need. And quite frankly, very often, people don't ever post about it. I don't require anything from that. And I do have people who are like, oh, you should require them to burp, burp, burp. I'm like, no, no, I'm good. Because most people start to get it really quickly. If they post about us or at us or mention us and they have pictures of their stickers, we reshare that content unless it's breaking some kind of a copyright law. We reshare it. And so people who are like quite savvy also at social media, they at us all the time. They mention us in their posts so that we respond to them because they know that almost for sure they're going to get engagement back from us no matter what the size of the audience is. The other way that we're just winning at Threads specifically is that I follow anyone who shares our content. Sometimes, unless I think they might be a bot, even if they have under 100 followers, if I know that they're not a bot, if I can tell they're not a bot, I will follow them. Inevitably, I follow some bot accounts because that's just going to happen. But if somebody is a real person and they're sharing our content or they're talking about us at all, I totally follow them. And I don't just follow them, I interact with their content. And I don't just interact with their content, I actually care that they're promoting us, that they're following us, that they are one of our fans, that they are spreading the word of our company. And I fucking mean it when I type that. Like, thanks. And if they do something cool, I like it, I amplify it, I tell people to pay attention to what they're doing, because that is what creates a Fanatic fan. That is what creates a Fanatic fan. It is astounding to me, companies that I have promoted, that I talk about, that I care about really deeply, that don't follow us or don't do anything for us, because what inevitably will happen is Sakara is not the only meal delivery service. Somebody that has a better service at some point, as my message starts to get out, will reach out to me and be like, hey, here's 3 months of free food to try us out, or 3 weeks of free food, or whatever it is to try it out. And I will try them out. And I will talk about it because I fucking love food. When I hear people talking about us, we send them a store credit, we thank them, we share their content, etc. Because then you're going to create a fan for life. And we treat our fans like part of our family, like they're our besties, because they are. Because they keep us in business. And then whenever anybody hears me talking about them, you're going to hear me in private the same way that I am in public, of like, I fucking love our clients. Are you shitting me? And to us, it doesn't matter if they're a client that spends $50 a year worth of stickers, which, spoiler alert, we lose money on clients that spend. We do not make money on a client that spends $50 a year on stickers. I don't know what the exact breakdown is, but they probably have to spend about $250 a year on stickers for us to actually make money from that client, which is why we're not fighting in the same space that everybody is for smaller clients. So anyway, as people are now really starting to watch the podcast, I'm going to end up starting maybe in a month or two to do like Instagram lives and to talk to people and to answer any questions that they have about growing and scaling their business, because I've obviously done this a bunch of times. For anybody that's new, I have sold $447 million worth of merchandise. If you want my CV or my dossier, then you can go on AndreaLake.com and check out a bunch of the different companies I've started. They're not all on there, but a lot of them are. So for decades of my life as a Gen X woman, I have been so heavily criticized, and I've been told it in so many different ways, myriad times, over and over and over again, that I just like was lucky. But when I came back into this company 2.5 years ago, $1.84 million in debt, not having two fucking nickels to rub together, and then I have built even what I've built already so far, I know that I'm not just lucky. Finally, it took me 52 years to realize that I have fucking got this. And that if you are on this journey from this point forward, there will be no more disclaimers. I am a fucking badass, and I know how to do this in business because I have done it several times before. It's been a while since I've done it. And guess what? I'm way better at it now because I care way less what other people think about me than I did when I was a kid. For sure. Thank you, perimenopause. That's working out great for me. Also, I have way more knowledge than I've ever had before, because not only have I started like 18 or 21 companies, I truly don't know how many it is. I still have to go back and like figure it out. The reason that I say 14 is that I like to drink wine when I'm at business conferences. I do. And inevitably somebody asks me to name the 14 companies, and I can always come up with 14 of them out of the 18 or 21 or however many. And that brings me to I'm going to a super fun business conference next week with a business group that I have been in since 2010. And I am meeting with hundreds of my friends because I have been in this business group for 16 years. And I know so many people. And then we're all traveling together afterwards. It's going to be super fun. It's called Summit. I'm going to Summit at Sea with summit.co. I'll put some posts on my personal page about that. It's going to be awesome. And luckily, it also happens to be where a lot of business gets done. And there's a lot of top tier, massive companies that buy lots of stickers. There's a lot of huge nonprofits going that buy lots and lots of stickers that I don't have relationships with yet. And there's a private app. So I'm already like reaching out to some of the people that are going to be there and be like, hey, I have a super great idea to do a fundraiser with stickers for your badass like nonprofit that everybody knows what they are. So hopefully I'll be able to announce that in a couple months. Hopefully we'll put the deal together while we're on the boat. And I will be seeing you next week for an update on how it's going, taking over the top part of the $42 billion annual mad-capped Tiger King-esque world of stickers. Until then, enjoy your popcorn, enjoy your wine, and I will come in piping hot with all of the tea.